Hi, Selma.
Hi, Philippe.
It's good to meet you.
It's good to be here. Also, love that poster in the background.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
at I'm at my place of work, which is El Bustan. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you ever been here or? Um,
I've never been here. I've only heard great things, and I can also tell you who are the personnel in that poster behind you.
oh yeah. Okay. Why don't you? Who
Yeah.
is it?
If I can like get it right, I think the main feature, the main woman in the poster is an actress called Hind Rustum,
Okay.
which was I think it's Hind Rustum through that, which was we named her the Marilyn Monroe of the East
Oh,
because
cool.
yeah, and and behind her are I think that's Shadia, who's an actress slash singer who's like a power on
Oh,
her own, and that's probably either Ahmed Ramzi or Shukri Sarhan, but probably Ahmed Ramzi, which was also like the bad boy, cute boy,
okay. Okay.
um, yeah, actor
Cool.
at the time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's good to know because
Oh, no, 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 actually, sorry, no. See, I now saw the names. Oh, I got it all. I got both of them wrong. So that's Samia Gamal, not Hindu Rustam. She was a belly dancer. Also, she actually spent time in the US.
uh-huh.
She got married to an American businessman and spent a good time in the US, and she used to have like tours in the US
Hmm.
dancing. And the other one is called not Shadya Zizi Badrawi, but she looks a lot like Shadya here also. A great actress that transitioned to being a TV star down the line, and that is Ahmed Ramzi. I was right. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Cool. That's I
yeah,
look. You have your dramaturg hat on already.
yeah.
Yeah.
College dramaturg had, or what I grew up watching.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is
Sure. Sure.
Egypt. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Cool, cool. Well, that's good to know. I mean, I see these posters every day, and I knew someone told me they're Egyptian film posters, but and my Arabic is so like kindergarten reading skills are so kindergarten
yeah.
level, so I never even tried. Um, so thank
Yeah,
you for
I
that.
actually don't know this film at all, so now I'll go check it out.
Oh, cool. Okay, well, let me know if it's good.
I
Um,
will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good to meet you. Yeah, my name's Philippe. I work at El Bustan, and we
Mhm.
are. You said you've heard of what we do, but for maybe the folks watching who haven't heard of what we've done, since I mean this is the last installment of our Power Talks for Arab American Heritage Month.
Okay.
Um, El Bustan is a arts and culture nonprofit in Philadelphia focused on Arab art and culture. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and we're happy to be here today with Selma. How do I say your last name? Is it Zohdi?
Zohdi. I mean,
Z.
so the American way of saying it would be Salma Zodi.
Zohdi.
The
Yeah.
Egyptian way of saying it is Salma Zohdi.
Selma
So
Zohdi. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Tarafna. um, cool. Okay. So I have a number of things I want to talk to you about. The question we've been starting with though in these talks for everyone is who are you and what is bringing you joy? So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and um,
Um,
where you're finding joy? And if you don't want to talk about joy, that's fine. Like you can talk about like what's sustaining you, what's grounding you.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
yeah.
Uh, who am I? That's
Yeah. What do you do? What's
well,
important
yeah.
about you?
Yeah, 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 my name is Salma Zodi. I am an Egyptian dramaturg, immigrant theater artist here in New York. I hold many hats. I'm the literary manager at New York Theater Workshop and the director of development and communication at North Theater, which is the only and first Middle Eastern theater company that is in New York. Um, and I teach at NYU. I've served in many other capacities in numerous organizations that I have the honor to have touch points with. But currently, this is my professional capacity, and I would also say personal capacity, because as an immigrant, when you move for work, then work becomes your life in a way that isn't. That just makes sense. You know, that's the thing that you migrated for, and hence that's what you spend most of your time doing joyfully. Because theater has always been my hobby, and now it's my line of work. So whenever anyone asks me, "What's your hobby?" I'm like, I don't know what that is because I'm
Yeah.
doing the thing that I love. So how do you step away from that? But yeah, what brings me joy? Um, I mean, it is hard navigating joy at these times, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't say joy per se. But what brings me serenity sometimes is being here home with my cat, Balewa, who
Really?
is who's just she saved my life. If I didn't have this little girl, um,
Uh-huh.
these times are going to be much harder
Mm.
than they are right now. Yeah,
Mhm.
and just like little things, watching Egyptian soap operas in Ramadan is the thing that I spend all my time doing, or like at least having it in the background while working. Just being around friends and family,
Nice.
watching good theater, good storytelling in any
Yeah.
medium is something that I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to talk about good storytelling and theater. So theater is what brought you to New York? Can you
Yes.
say more about that?
Theater, theaters what brought me to the US. New York was an informed choice because I wanted a city where well, culturally and historically rich, similar to Cairo in ways. But also, like, I love the like history and the walls. I actually prefer living in older buildings, and I do prefer living in all of these like new state of art buildings with like dishwashers. I'm like, no, I'm happy with the old plumbing, and I feel
Mhm.
there's definitely walls could talk. These would be these walls.
Mhm.
Um, Also a city, specifically New York, aside from its theater thing, but I wanted a pedestrian city or a city that relies heavily on transportation because I wasted, I would say, half of my 20s stuck behind a wheel in Cairo because traffic
Mm.
is the worst, or was the worst. I hear it's actually better now. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Haven't been for a minute, but yeah, theater was the reason why I migrated because
Uh-huh.
I my undergrad is in advertising and public relations.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then in order to transition to studying theater, I did a master's in English and comparative literature at the American University in Cairo with a focus on theater.
Mm.
And then in order for me to feel that I have any command of the theater practice, um, I lean towards academia and I like to study in order to say that I feel that I have the confidence to be a professional.
Mhm.
And within that, I applied for schools here during my last year of finalizing my master's home, and I was lucky to have had more than one choice. And I ended up going to Columbia, and the journey started there.
Mm. Cool. So you
Mm.
were saying that I feel like I relate to what you're saying with like work being I mean, I've never migrated on such a big scale. I haven't migrated at all actually by most definitions, but I have moved,
Uh-huh.
which nothing not comparing the two, of course. Um, but I'm new to Philadelphia now. And I came here for this job and I guess, like, in a very, very small way, I get what you're saying about, like, being in a new place, and then, like, if work is what brings you there, work is what grounds you. I'm curious, though, how do you go about finding community, um, otherwise?
Uh, I mean, the beauty about I don't know what it is in other fields, but I know specifically in theater, because regardless of what your profession is in theater, you are pouring your heart and your full self into the work.
Mhm,
And for me, there's no such thing as like work values that are separate from your personal values when it comes to making theater, because I feel often, even when we're in rehearsal rooms, you, you are asked to show up as who you are as a person. Um, and within that, then community becomes easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy to find, but easier to
mhm,
identify what your community is and what isn't.
mm,
um, because it would be then based on like core values or shared experiences. And that, so So the three communities that four communities, if I call them that I have here are one, like Egyptian diaspora community that all
Mm.
come from my same background, and we either found each other here or were connected by someone that I knew from home, and then they connect, like
Excuse me.
the joke of like all Egyptian immigrants who come from a certain social background in Egypt all know each other here in New York. That is true. Like, and even if we haven't met, then we know of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, so there's this community, and of course we gather. I mean, we gather every now and then to our best capacity, but like at times of like Ramadan would be the time that we would gather,
Mm-hmm.
or like around holidays that would have a very specific and special Egyptianness and taste and the way we do things at home, as opposed to how the collective Arab world does it. Because I'm sure every single country and every single pocket and every single even neighborhood and district has its own touch. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Mm-hmm.
that community, and then there is a theater community that would be split between two. It's either the larger theater community, which are peers that I've been in situations with and rehearsal rooms with, that we just um, connected and bonded over that, and then we became friends. And even if we don't talk for stretches of time, we always know how to lean on each other during times of crises. And I think the pandemic definitely highlighted that in more ways than anything else had, and how people show up for each other. Um, and then there is the pocket of the Mina theater community, which is adding that, like, yes, we have the same theater experience, but add to that also the shared experience of being of the same identity.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, and there's, sorry, I forgot. And there's a third community within the theater, which is the immigrant theater community, which is regardless of where you are, which country you're from, we are sharing the same immigration journey, which is a journey on its own. And within it, while we may not be speaking the same language, while we may not be coming from the same exact home, but we understand what it's like to be in diaspora here and the choices we make here, and also like sharing contacts for lawyers, and how do
Mm-hmm.
we apply for taxes as immigrants on our own, like all of those like little, or having a question about a job that is offered and we don't know if you should take it or not, or what can you negotiate, how do you feel empowered to advocate for yourself. Like, this is also another pocket of community that I was lucky to find during also the pandemic, at a time of crisis, and at a time where um, before the pandemic, it felt like the immigrant journey is so isolating because each of us is going through it alone, and we have to go through it alone. And then when the pandemic hit, there was I forgot what it's called now, the Pandemic Care Act, which
Yeah, yeah.
generously allowed and extended the unemployment to be um, extended to immigrant workers who live in the US.
Mm-hmm.
But then we had lawyers tell us, actually, if you apply for that, you might, when you're renewing or you're applying for a green card or whatever, you will be asked if you apply for unemployment. If you have this, will might automatically make you ineligible, because that
Mm-hmm.
will be indirect violation of your visa. So within that, at a time of complete crisis, of complete devastation, we gathered and we decided to, well, then let's create work for ourselves at the time. And out of it came a
Mm-hmm.
virtual theater festival that continued to, and continues till this day, even though the larger co-founders of it are no longer around, but continues to uplift and empower and give resources to immigrant artists at times, especially at these very early times when you're trying to find work that you could use as credentials for your, as you're building your immigration case.
Mm-hmm.
So if not, and I know this is not the experience for everyone, but for me, definitely the pandemic, even though it's like a time of hype crisis, this is the time also, as I said, like made it's not a filtering of communities, but more like what communities showed up more to each other and then found
Mm-hmm.
themselves. Like now, with what's happening with Palestine and Israel, this is the time when the Mina and Swana community is really coming together. And within that, also, there's the larger BIPOC community that is showing up, or the larger ally community that is showing up to the Mina and Swana community. I would say in New York, but also beyond that in the US.
Mhm.
So it is, yeah, in times of crisis, I think this is when you truly find who
Mm.
your community is. And as you look back at the last 5 years, there have been so many crises, but out of them,
Mhm.
for me, at least, there was an identification, first off, of who I am, what do I stand for, what my values are, and who shared these same values, and how do we support each other and show up for each other during these times.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I feel like that word community gets thrown around so much, and often, like, very flippantly, and I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like so many things that are referred to as communities aren't communities, like,
Yeah.
um, but at the end of the day, that's what yeah, community, I think it's a high stake for me, it's a high stakes word. It is like, like people who will help you figure out your taxes so that you can,
Yeah.
it's like it has real material um implications, like people who will
And then
keep you fed.
and and then also the same thing, like how you're gonna then
Yeah,
take
yeah.
that and then it's like pay it forward. You also share your experience with someone else, or you find yourself like the moment I hear someone's applying for an O1, my ears are like, how can
Mm,
I help? Well, like, what do you need? I'm happy to help. I'm happy to share my journey. If you want to, also resources of XYZ, just or the same thing about like anyone who wants to create or connect with MENA theater makers.
mhm,
I'm like, yeah, great. So this is the opera. You can sign up to this listserv at Noor. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're doing this event. We're doing like just like I don't even have to think. It's often a knee jerk reaction,
mm, mhm, mhm,
because I was lucky and I was honored to have people in my way and in my path that helped in so many ways from all of these communities, that it just feels only natural to do the same, because you've been there, you've been in that, and you continue to be in at that time of either confusion or just even having someone validate and acknowledge
mhm.
what you might be going through that might feel to you as an isolated experience, but actually it isn't. Like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Totally, totally. It's like maybe I don't know how to help you with, um, your visa extension application, but I can connect you with the person, or at the very least, like I'll make you a cup of tea, or
Yeah.
like listen to you
Yeah.
complain about it.
Yes,
um, yeah,
absolutely.
that's cool. That's cool. So I was reading a bit about your work, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere
If
I
you're
heard you talk.
reading anything on my website, it has not been updated for 2 years. Just
Okay,
saying.
noted.
Like, if my website was your reference, then it's slightly outdated.
Okay, well, you can redirect me if I'm going in a irrelevant direction, but I remember reading something about like um, you were talking about being part of the uprising in Egypt, right?
Yeah.
And the protests, and I feel like there seems to be a thread of like your work being like in conversation with like social justice movements. Would
Mhm.
you say that's kind of true,
Um,
or like a
yes.
lens? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I The reason why well, I said the reason why I moved to New York, but the reason why I gravitated towards theater. I mean, there was the personal, just because theater was the storytelling form.
Hmm.
Unlike most people in my generation in Egypt, actually, my grandfather was, even though he was not a theater maker, he was a math teacher. He was an avid theater goer, like avid theater goer till the extent we used to go to see bad plays even in the summer. Like we used to see everything. When he passed, we had, because they televised theater in Egypt, so we have this like huge library of VCR recorded plays from like just for us to watch. So it's the storytelling form that I grew up not only consuming but connecting to.
Hmm.
So that's from the storytelling aspect. But as for the impetus behind even doing theater and deciding that again, I always loved the craft and I always wanted to do it. But why I really wanted to do it was at that transitional moment during my last year of doing my first master's in Egypt, and that was in 2011, which when the revolution erupted, and we were down at like we were out in the streets, and this was also a time that you could tell there is there were glimpses, very promising glimpses of cultural and storytelling revolution in the way that how artists showed up in the square or how artists showed up on TV screens. Like, I would still, till this day, I would say the best drama Egypt has created was between the era of 2012 and 2016, when no one was looking, because there was a transition. So same thing as, like, most of the underground theater makers were part of that revolution as well. I was not part of that underground theater world at the time, but I knew a lot of the people of the, like, there,
Mm-hmm.
who I could see showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the naivete at the time that was, oh, well, now politically we're sort of figuring things out. Then how can this transition, in my mind, how can this transition to becoming a long-term cultural conversation that we keep on having socially and politically and religiously, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And the only way to do that is through theater for me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because it is also communal. It also has that, like, we're all sharing that same experience in that same room together. And at that time, when I was writing my thesis, I used to read a lot about, like, forum theater and Augusta Boel and theater of the oppressed, and how that impacted policy making in the country. And I was like, well, that might be a great way to tap into how to keep that momentum of of keeping the conversation going and stirring little by little. I wouldn't say change, but just, like, planting the seed of a thing that might
Mm-hmm.
pivot the status quo just a little bit, just about this topic or about that topic. And for me, I was like, great, then I'm just going to go and study. Hopefully I'll
Mm-hmm.
come back and be able to um, work with other fellow theater makers to implement that as things were galvanizing. And then, little by little, the revolution didn't pan out to succeed the way we wanted it to. And yeah, and that was that for the moment. There was a time when I was finalizing my degree at Columbia that I thought I want to spend half of my year here and half of my year in Egypt, to maybe work on a theater festival and have international voices come to Egypt. To maybe that will help things a little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
um, politically, the current authorities they're monopolizing even entertainment theater making, or so, entertainment making period. So
Oh wow.
it's not just censorship, but they are stakeholders. So um, yeah, freedom of speech is not a thing to be attained at all right now, including even, like, showing solidarity for Palestine yesterday in the last
Mm-hmm.
24 hours, because of the solidarity with Palestine protest at I think the journalist syndicate in Egypt, the press syndicate in Egypt, just in less than 48 hours, 15 people got arrested overnight.
Wow.
So all that say is that things are much worse back home right now to consider even making work that pushes boundaries, let alone
Mm-hmm.
keeps the status quo without getting the approval of what that status quo is, because we might all have different ideas of what that status quo is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's answering your question,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
what I also found value in is that I'm around amazing theater makers here,
Uh-huh.
and every chance and opportunity I get to be part of the work that, whether it marks itself as a social justice, like, movement forward work or not, as long as it asks questions that
Mm-hmm.
makes people slightly uncomfortable, I'm happy to do.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, Egypt is always, and the people who stood up to the people in Egypt, and the people who always stand by what's right in Egypt, are always in my heart. So for that, there is this Egyptian political prisoner called Ali Abdel Fattah, who has been incarcerated, who has been numerously incarcerated for over since 2006, actually, up till this moment, and um, going in and out more than once. But the most recent arrest, which was in 2019, does not look. He could, sorry, I'm not being the most articulate person right now because
No,
this
no.
is hitting.
Yeah. You're good.
But basically, Ale, the conditions of his incarceration were completely different past
Mm-hmm.
2019.
Mm,
And especially with the new administration, not new, with the current administration, and with the current authorities. And Ale had his family are constantly advocating for him to get out or trying to find means for him to get out justly because he comes from a family of lawyers and lawmakers and
mhm,
so and in 2021 there was a book there's a book that was published with like a collection of Ale's essays from 2011 till 2021. It was called You Have Not Yet Been Defeated, which is, I don't know if you can see it, but it's that book
uh,
over there.
uh-huh,
And it was published in the UK.
mm,
And I remember when it came out, I thought there was a moment that I was inspired at another rehearsal room, actually, for another show, that I was like, what if we do a play? What if there's a theatrical piece about Ale and his journey
mhm,
in order to expand the conversation from it being happening in political and advocacy circles, but also to let the audiences as a whole, whether liberal audiences here in the US, Western audiences, or even audiences in the Arab world that might know who Ale is by his tweets or just by some news, but they don't really know him and his family as intimately as I think everyone should know and be inspired by.
mhm,
And I was lucky to have friends who are friends with Ale's family to be like, yeah, this is a great idea. Please reach out to them. And then I had a collaborator and a really close friend here, Adam Mastaya, who's a brilliant playwright,
mm,
who said yes to
mhm.
the project. And him and I have been working on this piece have been working on it since for a minute.
Okay.
And we're having a development workshop at the end of April for
Okay.
because it turned out to be larger than what it was. It was meant to be 90 minutes, and now it's like this huge trilogy. And we're thinking of like, well,
Wow.
instead of being 3 acts, we can divide it into 3 plays. So right now we're workshopping like what would the first part of it look like right now, if it's just standalone. So it's been I'm honored to have been on this journey, and
Uh-huh.
I'm honored to be trusted with the story, and I'm honored to be working with someone like Adam, who is not only brilliant but very attentive and generous and um, knows how to inspire me in ways that also he's Egyptian. He's 12 years younger than me, but we do have that shared experience, have that same shared language, in
Mm.
order to collaborate on a piece of such.
Wow,
So
cool, cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I look forward to maybe someday, seeing that piece.
I would absolutely love to invite you to come and see
Oh,
that piece
yeah,
if
let me
you're
know.
around.
Yes, yeah, I'll be around. I'm in New York. I'm from New Jersey, so,
Well,
uh,
there you go.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, I hope your family is okay today, given
Yeah, how was they're okay, alhamdulillah, but it was strong in New Jersey, they said. But no,
yeah,
everyone's good. How was it over
that's
there?
good. It was a shake. It was a shake.
Yeah,
I don't handle earthquakes well, so we were fine. My cat and I are fine. It is it is not. Yeah, I think I was just surprised because I
mm,
one of the reasons also why I chose New York and not the West Coast was to steer away from
oh,
earthquakes.
earthquakes, yeah.
Because in Egypt there was this big earthquake that happened in 1992, and it was in my formative years, and it
Oh,
just hit me in a very specific way that I'm like, I just
okay.
don't do earthquakes.
Wow,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
just
Okay.
I would never consider retiring in Japan, for example. That would be
Yeah, sure,
anxiety
that's a
inducing for
concern.
me. Like, there are certain places that I just would not go live in for that reason.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. Okay, well, I hope you're finding peace how you can. Um,
This is helping.
oh, good, good. Okay, happy to hear that. I mean, yeah, this is so fascinating, and yeah, yeah, I feel like you inadvertently answered so many of the questions that I had. I do want to end with the question that we ask at every Power Talks, which is, when do you feel the most powerful? You can take that however you want to.
I feel I feel the most powerful definitely when I'm speaking about Egypt. Like,
Mm,
if you put me in any room and this is the moment, then just like when we were talking about the poster, it's not my dramaturgical self, it's myself.
Mhm,
I don't have to do research to do that. So of course I feel the power, and of course like I know what I'm talking about, and I'm not hesitant at all.
mhm,
And I just anything anything that is in a line of my own core values. And
mhm,
I'm passionate when I talk about my cat. I'm passionate when I talk about my family. I'm passionate when I talk about our community. I'm passionate when I talk about Palestine. Like,
mhm, mhm,
um, I'm also empowered to say that if there's a thing I don't know, I don't know,
mhm,
um, as opposed to things that I'm still aware. I've been in this country for 10 years, but there are things that I'm still experiencing that I have known cognitively, but like viscerally, I don't. And I would then not be as empowered to speak of or behalf of or with knowledge about any of these because there's a lived experience that I haven't had.
mhm,
But anything that has to do with my own lived experience or the things that live in my own DNA, I feel empowered to converse about.
mhm, mhm, mhm. That's beautiful. Well, Selma, thank you. It's been great to talk to you.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you for listening to my rant.
Oh my
I
gosh, of
appreciate
course.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.